Learn cybersecurity and focus technical training with justhacking.com, where all-star instructors and industry experts provide hands-on, affordable, and practical learning. Across courses, free upskill challenges, hack-along training videos, and capture the flag competitions, there's always something to hack. With new content twice a month, all throughout the year, plus bi-monthly live streams, you can sharpen your skills in our on-demand and interactive lab environments. Advance your career and level up, regardless of your experience or budget. Forget all the noise and get to Just Hacking. Sign up now at justhacking.com. Woohoo! Hello! Hello, everybody! Waving arms in celebration. Happy Friday. Goodness gracious. Happy Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Good old October. Once again, every year. It happens every year for some reason. Every time. It's one and then the next and then another again. Another Cybersecurity Awareness Month. But welcome, everybody. Hey, super good to see you all. Thank you for coming to hang out. Look, it's another Just Hacking training live stream. JHT, some of the sweet fun that we're doing on the side, you know, extra in addition to all the other things that we're up to, whether it's YouTube, whether it's content, whether it's videos, whether it's training, whether it's capture the flag or conferences. There's just more spinning plates, but we're having a whole lot of fun with Just Hacking training and getting some more education, courses, training, lab exercises, and hands-on and practical labs for you all. So look, it's a new month. It is October, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so a lot of sweet stuff to hype up. We've got a new course launch, a new release for you, an incredible special guest that I'm super excited to have join the party here. But before we do, I gotta roll through the usual administration, logistics stuff, just the announcements of all the things that we're up to, kind of roll through the spiel of what's going on over at JHT and Just Hacking training world. Super appreciate all your support, but if you don't mind, let me share my screen and I'll go ahead and we'll talk shop. We'll dig into it. Let's see what we're all up to as soon as I can share my screen, if it will let me. Computers. Technology? Where'd it go? That one. That's the button. Dude, you think I'd be good at this? You'd think I'd have figured it out by now. All right. JustHacking.com. That is the home base, that is HQ, that is headquarters, that's where the party starts for everything that we're up to. And look, if you're tuning in here on YouTube or Twitch or LinkedIn or Twitter or X or whatever, yes, we're doing the live stream. I'm here live with you, but this is being recorded. So if you got a dash, if you can't make it, or I don't know, you see this after the fact, yep. It'll be up on the channel. It'll be up in all of the spots, and you can go track that down alongside all the previous live streams that we've been doing over on the events page on the Vitals tab in the navigation at justhacking.com. There's a ton of stuff there, even some of the archives as to what we've done previously with all of our other special guests and all-stars, our curriculum instructors, our courseware developers, and a lot of the conferences that we've been at and we've been going to, where we're at IRL in the real world. Look, we were at B-Sides Cayman Islands, we were at B-Sides Connecticut, we were at Blue Team Con, we were at all of these awesome things, and coming up, I'll be the keynote over at B-Sides Northern Virginia, I'll be the keynote over at B-Sides New York City, and at SenCon in Utah, and all the things that keeps Cybersecurity Awareness Month cruising. A little bit of a, I don't know, East Coast tour here and there with some bopping all over for the US. Speaking and a lot of fun. But I do want to draw our attention to the big one that we're super duper excited about, B-Sides Chicago. Look, B-Sides Chicago is one of our first chances, the sweet pilot for us to be able to do in-person live training with me and some of the other all-star instructors. We got Michelle Khan, teaching some OSINT. We've got Ellie Daw doing some vibe coding, and Trevor Stavato with Hardware Hacking 101, including a take-home kit. So we're super excited about this one. There is a link, and we'll be throwing that out in chat, I believe, for these workshops. Look, there is still a 10% discount to be able to jump in and join the party, and you'll be there with us. We get to spend the day together, hang out, do whatever we want to do. While we've got, the curriculum, everything that we'll showcase, it's still just a matter of that one-on-one interaction, being with you there in person. And I will emphasize, I will note, this workshop, all the stuff that we're doing for B-Side Chicago, is not something that's going to be recorded or live streamed or cast out to the interweb airwaves. It's exclusive. Ooh, it's exclusive for, hey, all the folks getting together in person there. And I'll be doing my darndest for the script-based malware analysis section. I want to try and add to and improve some of the material there, because I think I could sprinkle in, maybe add some new material for us for Lua, one of those other languages that you might oftentimes see in game hacking, as well as malware, certainly malware, with Lua, LuaJIT, and all the things that maybe compiled Lua might look like when it's quote-unquote compiled in bytecode. So anyway, hyping it up. I really hope you'd be there. I would love to see you at B-Side Chicago. I will be the closing keynote or the lock note, and we're going to have a ton of fun. So anyway, enough of me rambling on B-Side Chicago and all these events. I did want to sprinkle in just one extra heads up. The Huntress Capture the Flag is running right now for the whole month of October in Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And while I don't mean to be screaming and shouting about Huntress for a Just Hacking training live stream, I did want to put this on your radar because a sweet little fun fact, that's using the same platform that Just Hacking training is as well, with Core Stack, powered virtual machines, powered labs, all that incredible stuff. And a little perk, some awesome opportunity, something that we're really excited about, and more details that will come next week. Probably going to be doing some sweet collaborations with Huntress and Just Hacking training for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So hoping we can join forces in a really cool way to get even more education out the door for security awareness training, for hands-on labs, practical education, and stuff that I'm just excited about. So anyway, go jump in, ctf.huntress.com if you'd like to play the CTF, if you want to join the game, and more on that when we get to join forces for some of this month and some of the sweet festivities. On that, let's talk about the real star of the show, the real stuff we can dive into for today, API hacking. And this is the new launch. This is the new course release today for the month of October. Hacking APIs. And I am super excited and ecstatic about this one because this comes from Katie. InsiderPhD, you might know, you might already be familiar with some of her incredible work. She is always helping spread education on APIs, the security of all that backing infrastructure and a whole lot of web applications and websites. And previously, she has shared a lot of different upskill challenges, or like the free, zero cost, no paywall, like $0 to go dive in and learn a little bit more about WebSockets or GraphQL or RESTful APIs and a little bit more about what all these API things are. But finally, we got her. She was willing to help out, and I'm so grateful for all of her incredible work. Huge thanks to Katie for what she has built out with the full API hacking course. There's a lot here. Let me be the first to say, and I'll let Katie run the show really when we can bring her in. But if I may hype it up, I am ecstatic to see this come to life because there's like over 50 videos. It's over 5 hours of content and quizzes and the whole lab that you can spin up, challenges and demos and everything in there. It's so cool. It's super cool. Let me show you a little bit of the curriculum, if that's a-okay. And I will note for the month of October, the first month that a new training or new course is released, there's always the 20% off opportunity. There is no discount code. There is no thing, you have to slap in at checkout. Just by default, 20% off list price for the month of October. The first month a new course is released. That's kind of been our tradition thus far. But look at this thing. Let me zoom in so we can get to the curriculum. Interacting with APIs, JSON, GraphQL, of course, all the hacking tools that you might get to work with, Burp Suite, Postman, etc. Trufflehog even in the mix. Hacking APIs with some OWASP top 10. There is so much stuff here. She did a phenomenal job, and I'm stoked to see it. And I think she can give us a little bit of a sneak peek with some of her demos with API hacking. With that, how am I doing on time? 10 minutes or so? Yeah, all right. I burned 10 minutes of rambling and ranting about all of our spiel and announcements. I will squeeze in one last little bit. While we're hyped up about API hacking, very, very soon, we got a little bit of love for the blue team. Some more defense and forensics-based stuff coming out next week. We're trying, hoping for. Very soon. Very, very soon. ETA, and I don't want to leak or sprinkle out too much, but we're also hyped about some more hands-on, practical, elastic, and work investigating incident response, forensics, analysis, and triage. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm a little, I don't know if it's ADHD. I don't know if it's a squirrel moment or if I've just been having way too many energy drinks for this CTF that I'm trying to host at the same time. But we're having fun. And we're ready to bring Katie in on the show. Katie, how you feeling? Backstage? You okay for me to bring you in? I can do like a sweet countdown. I know I can't see you now that we're in Riverside and not Restream, so we'll get Katie in on the show in 3, 2, 1. Ah! I was like, is she ready? Is it set?
No, I am in fact ready.
Welcome. Good to see you. How are you, Katie?
Good to see you too. I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
Excellent. I'm trying to stay with it. I'm trying to keep up. I don't know about you, but life is just, switching to high gear for Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
We are so aware of cybersecurity, though.
Oh, yes. More so than ever before. Well, it was super good to see you over at B-Sides Cayman Islands. I know you've been getting a little bit of travel in just as well, and somehow you're keeping up and cranking out a whole new course with this. What are you up to? How are you feeling? And actually, I'm sorry, forgive me. In case anyone isn't familiar with who you are or what you're doing or all your sweet credentials and expertise, would you mind filling in the gaps? Would you mind just giving your intro, your elevator pitch here?
Yeah, sure. So I always describe myself as I used to make applications and now I break them. That is fundamental. I used to be a developer, former developer turned hacker through bug bounty hunting. That's really where I got my start. Now I do a lot more security research and security advocacy. I used to be a security researcher at an API security company. And then now I work as a security advocate at SemGrep that keeps the world code secure.
Heck yeah. SemGrep is a phenomenal place to be. That's excellent.
It really is. I mean, I love it. I tell you what, this is the one work-related story I will tell. So usually when I've worked for security vendors, the people that go to like Black Hat or like RSA or whatever, right, is always like the marketing team and some salespeople. When I joined SemGrep, one quarter of the entire company, there was over like 50 people in Vegas for Black Hat and DEF CON, and there was like developers, product people, sales people, security advocate, like it's like a quarter of the whole company. And I think that's such a good example of like why they care so much about security, because if your developers are coming and going to Black Hat and DEF CON, then you've got a good tool and you're in a good company.
Yeah, they're taking it seriously. They're doing it for real. It's all the real right stuff for security.
For sure.
Well, hey.
But no, I'm doing really well. Like,
yeah.
I've been very busy. Obviously, I saw you recently at B-Sides Cayman Islands. Fantastic B-Sides. Strongly recommend it. Strongly recommend the Cayman Islands as well. As we were kind of doing it, I was like, man, this is really nice. I'd love to live here. And I looked up how you get residency. I was like, okay, no, I do not have enough money for this.
Well, thank you for all of your hard work and all of your effort in putting together a whole API hacking course. I know that is a mountain of work, and you've got a ton of other stuff going on. And I am especially super thankful for you being willing to, hey, be along for the ride with some of the sweet just hacking training stuff. So, can you tell me a little bit about the course, what you built, what your vision was, what came to be? Anything you're willing to get us started with?
So obviously I've got quite a lot of free content on YouTube. And I'll be honest, API security really doesn't change that much. Everything that is relevant for API security a year ago is still relevant today. And what I really wanted to do with the course is bring together a lot of information that I've kind of got scattered around conference talks and podcast appearances and lab exercises and pull it into one centralized place where people can kind of start it from the beginning and get like way more of a kind of structured learning environment, right? I think when I make videos, that works for a lot of people, right? It works for people who do just kind of want to pick up, you know, a little bit of information about that, a little bit of information about that. But I think for people who really want to have like a sit down and learn time, I always felt like my videos never quite like reached the mark. And I've done some webinar series, and I think that got me closer to what I wanted. But really, I just want to kind of distill all these like random things into one place where people can go and they can follow it from start to finish. So the whole course is built around this idea. It takes you from you don't know what an API is to all the common types of API. So it's not just about RESTful APIs, it's about GraphQL APIs, gRPC APIs, and even now LLMs and AI, because there can be no AI without APIs. Kind of going to the latter point, I then really wanted to kind of builds a better version of Generic University. Generic University is something I built for a live stream in 2020. And it's based in Laravel. I used to be a Laravel developer, so I'm like, I'm gonna do it all in Laravel, and I did it all in Laravel, and it was held together with duct tape and strings. But now you see, now we have AI agents, and they can help you write the code and help you write a bunch of JavaScript. So I've tried to make it as realistic for an actual application as I can. So we've got a full JavaScript front end. We've got a full API backend. We have an S3 bucket functionality in there as well. We have like health endpoints. It's like as close as I could get to what hacking a real API feels like, just with a lot more vulnerabilities. Because I tell you what you do when you are hacking real applications, you are banging your head against a brick wall all the time. But that's just some of the motivation. Of course, the course comes with videos, it comes with written, it comes with quizzes, it comes with hands-on exercises. So however you learn, there is going to be something that you can follow there.
I'm so happy. I love to see it. Thank you again and again and again for making something so awesome and so comprehensive. Like, it is beginner friendly. That's the biggest thing. Like, hey, this is an intro to API hacking, right? But it's almost the zero to hero. And not to use the silly buzzword, but you generally go through so much material.
Yeah, I did. I mean, halfway through, I was, because just to give people a behind the scenes of how this works, when I was originally chatting with the like whole Just Hacking training team, and they were like, oh, would you consider doing like a hack along? And I was like, yeah, I would do a hack along. I could do something on the OWASP API top 10. I was like, okay, great. I'm going to start building that. I'm going to start building out that content. I started building it. I'm like, this is already 100 slides. This is not a hack along. This is like 2 hours of content. I can't present this in a 20 to 30 minute video. That's insane. And so that's kind of how the course kind of came to be. It was very much oh no, I wrote too much content and now I have to turn it into something else. I've never been very good at doing that though, like reducing the amount of my videos say it all though. My video is like an hour long.
I mean, this is cool. I appreciate us, chatting as some content creators with also some of the training and education in there. I feel very similar. And like, look, if I were to make a thorough video that does explain and add context and the background details for kind of everything that I'm working through, that's going to make like a 30-minute, 40-minute, maybe an hour long video. And when we put that stuff out on YouTube, it's super duper scattered across different YouTube videos, and we've got like 1,000 of them or more. So I love the fact, hey, now it's this material with the trajectory with from 1A to next stop A to B kind of thing. It is much more of that curriculum for a course, right? So incredible work.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think I really noticed it because I also do some in-person teaching as well.
Yeah.
And obviously, as part of that, I recommend videos to my students. I'm like, hey, you should check out John Hammond's videos. His videos are great. And that's not because I know him. But I kind of realized through that there's a lot of value in having that kind of approach where it is just more guided and there is a lot of structure behind it. Because while I prefer the kind of like chaoticness, and I'm generally quite a chaotic person, actually, I think a lot of people don't like that. And a lot of people don't need that in their like learning. They need something more structured.
Well, anyway, I'm sorry. I don't mean for us to be rambling, but I think you also have some cool little fireworks to show off, or maybe some sweet show and tell. And is there a demo up your sleeve you might be willing to showcase?
There is, in fact, a demonstration. Let me throw up my screen here. So as part of the course, you obviously get access to the API Hacking Lab. And it's called the Capybara Adoption Agency. I know you see the capybara, the giant capybara plushie, right? Like, putting things together here. So I envisioned this around the idea of like capybaras and what you have access to here. And as I was building it, I realized I didn't want to just have it for the course. I wanted to release it publicly so people who maybe are more like me and like the kind of chaotic approach to learning can also have something. So this is completely free on GitHub. You can download this now. It uses Docker, so to start up, it should be a lot easier than Generic University.
May I be the annoying 5-year-old to ask, oh, could you zoom in or could you amp up the text a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Forgive me. I know I feel bad always asking, but super duper helps for our mobile viewer friends or us with glasses.
You know what? I don't know if somebody can maybe just throw it in the chat or something, the link. Totally. But yeah, should you wish to have a look and have a go at this yourself, you absolutely can. The advantage of the course version is that it also comes packaged with a bunch of my like best API recon data sets. It comes all like set up for you nice and in one place, and it comes with also like my burp configuration as well. So there is an advantage to kind of getting it on the course version, but again, you are more than welcome to download it, folks. If you wanna have a go and see, you can go have a go. But when you actually download it and start it up, this is the Gentle Giants Adoption Agency. I'm gonna, oh, there we go, perfect. So Gentle Giants Adoption Agency is a specialist rescue, a specialist version of like Pet Finder, but for capybaras and other related rodents. So you can see you adopt to save a life, support the rescues, and then find your match. We've got some long-term residents here, Carlos, Carla, and Chip. And we can have a look and see all of the pets that are available to rescue. And you'll see actually how much like JavaScript there is. Like, I'm very impressed with how much of this works compared to Generic University. Generic University was definitely more of an experiment. But you've got a full registration system. We've got like a full adoption. This you can search through them. So this is the new lab all set up.
Excellent. That is kind of the starting point to jump into some of the API aspect to it. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. So what you'll notice as you kind of go and have a browse around here is that it's made up of these different components. So the first component is the one hosted at 5174. That is our UI. We've then got here on 3001 a good old API. We love an API. We love an API endpoint that is then calling all of that. And we should see, if I go into my burp settings and turn on images.
Yeah, you're in Burp Suite, right? And you've had kind of just a proxy listening as you were exploring the page, so it could collect all these different endpoints, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Same as you would if you were looking at any other application. I'm using something called PoneFox, which gives my burp colors because, as I mentioned in the course, it's one of my favorite tools for API testing because you can make these container tabs like so. And if I go and I just copy and put this in here, it colors your burp history depending on the color of the tab. So when you're testing with multiple accounts, which is something we do a ton when we're doing API testing, we don't have to like log out and we can easily swap like the authentication mechanism. So one of my favorite tools, highly recommend.
I did not know that existed. That is awesome.
It's so good. It's called PoneFox. I think it's one of the best burp tools. There's also one, it's called Autochrome for Chromium-based browsers as well.
Sweet.
But this is GitHub profile, and then you just download a separate extension on your Firefox.
I know it's just cutesy colors, but man, that does make a difference. It's good.
It's so helpful because, especially, you know, maybe I'm doing like a self-exposing myself here. But one of the things that I'm really worried about when I'm doing like bug bounty hunting is accidentally like messing up my cross-account testing, finding a vulnerability, and then the triager turning around and saying, actually, that's not a valid bug. You've just messed up. And it's never happened to me yet, but the thought of it is so embarrassing that it's something I like double, triple, quadruple, quintuple check just to make sure, because oh man, I do not want to have to admit that to a triager.
Well, I love seeing in the chat, PoneFox is so cool. A lot better, maybe some of the other options out there. If I may, could I throw one question for you now, or do you want to keep cruising? Is there more to explore for your demo?
There's more to explore, but we can do it kind of between questions. What have you got for me?
Well, some folks were a little curious. I don't know if you've got a chance to play with Kaido, but there are the obvious questions. Ooh, what about Kaido versus Burp? Have you played much with Kaido? Or?
You know, I haven't. I know the Kaido team really well, and I really like what they're building. They have got such a awesome team that's really passionate about the security community. And honestly, like the amount of community support Kaido has been giving, I think has put some pressure on Burp, because now Portswigger is, for example, like sponsoring a bunch of events, and I think it's partly because of Kaido. I think there's like 100% any competition is good, right? I know one of my colleagues, the way that he hacks is completely in, I think it's man the middle proxy. So he doesn't use Burp at all. There is no like right or wrong tool to use, and I think all of them have like advantages and disadvantages, of course. While I still am very reliant on Burp because it's kind of where I learned, and it's kind of how I learned when I first got started. So I've been kind of unwilling to, but it's definitely something I want to jump into, and it's a plan for a video is like how to use Kaido for beginners like me who have heard a lot or who have seen them like, you know, really promote the community aspect. But yeah, it's definitely something I need to check out more.
Cool. I just think use what you like, use what you're used to. Yeah, use what works though.
So as we're kind of testing here and having a look, the first thing I recommend, and this is again spoilers for the course, My number one piece of advice is really just to look at an application and see how it's supposed to work, right? Like very much, I'm just gonna make the text a little bit larger here as well, just because it's a bit small even for me. One of the things I recommend the most is simply just using an API and making sure that you kind of understand how the API works and how the API is supposed to kind of work functionally. That's a little bit better. And so the first thing I recommend doing is just use the API. So I'm just going to go in here and just start using it. I'll register a new account, make it InsiderPhD, put in some garbage here. We'll have a very secure password of 123123. And as I'm kind of going through this, I'm just going to be looking for functionality and trying to understand it. When it comes to like the actual vulnerabilities I find in real applications, a lot of them are related to the business logic and how the application works. So without doing that kind of first step of just understanding what on earth I'm looking at, there is no way I can do any kind of hacking on it. There's no way I can go straight into like burp and just start spamming stuff. I need to take a step back and be like, okay, what am I actually testing? So the first part of my recon process is just to experiment. I think the first like hour, if not 2 hours of doing any kind of like bug bounty, etc., is really just to explore an application and see how it's supposed to be used.
And if anything, you're then giving Burp Suite or your proxy tool kind of like an arsenal of, oh, hey, I know this interaction, whether it was logging in, whether it was registering, whether it was filling out a form, then you've got that post method and request that you could then tinker and play with later, right? So
yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I really like to do is I don't have it always enabled because it can be it can have quite a high system impact. But Logger++ for Burp Suite, super helpful because you can put in regex queries and then you can look at your requests and filter them. So I've actually got various regex queries that will do stuff like grab API endpoints, grab GraphQL queries. So if I'm facing like an application where I don't have like introspection isn't turned on for GraphQL hacking, or the API that I'm looking at doesn't have like a proper documentation, it's just out there, it's not really designed for people to use, I can generate my own. And in fact, I do list that in the course. I said give you my regex expressions for getting burp to kind of turn into a recon tool for you.
that's awesome. I'm sure there are a ton of extra resources sprinkled in and throughout the material.
Yeah,
If
I mean,
anything,
I
just
tried.
good to know your workflow. Yeah.
My whole ambition with quite a lot of this is to give away as much as I can within reason. So there's quite a lot of time I spend talking about like my methodology and my way of working and how I test and the kind of common bugs that I find. Are they always going to be the most common bugs that other people find? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know how other people hack, but I'm sharing at least how I do it.
Totally.
So as we're kind of testing the API here and we're getting a feel for what we actually have access to, the number one thing that I'm always keeping in my mind is going to be access control issues. Access control issues are by far the most common vulnerability in real APIs. Doesn't matter if it's a massive company that spends millions on their API security, or if it's a small company who just has 1 or 2 APIs. For the most part, it's very easy as a developer to mess up. And those mess ups often end up in production. And so I really recommend testing for access control issues. So that's your broken object level authorization, broken function level authorization, and broken object property level authorization. So as I'm going here and I've grabbed some of these requests, I can then start to make some assumptions about what else is there and how this application works. First thing I kind of recommend doing before you start immediately going into the testing is to take a step back and make sure you understand how that API is working. So here we can see that it's using a bearer token. So this is likely a JWT, and we can go into something like JWT editor to confirm that, or we can just go into inspector and we can see what this bearer token contains. So we've got a user ID, a role, and an expiration date. So this is where I'm going to be thinking, okay, the authentication mechanism for this API is JWTs. And a lot of people will go from there and go immediately, I'm going to test every JWT vulnerability that I have ever heard of. I'm just going to jump in it. Step back. You don't test. Make sure you understand how the API works. So we can see from this that our IDs are all UUIDs. Now, this is something you see a lot in APIs. People think that if you use UUIDs, you cannot have access control issues because the UUIDs are like hidden because you can't just predict the next one. Not always the case. Quite often an app will expose UUIDs in other places. So I know what the authentication mechanism is. I know a little bit about how those IDs work. I can also start to see the structure of the API as well. So I'm seeing requests to get API v1 users profile, API v1 pets, and then an ID. API v1 pets, but an option. Here we're also seeing a reference to a rescue ID as well. So as I'm kind of understanding, how this app is put together, I'm starting to recognize, okay, this is a RESTful API. So because it's a RESTful API, I can make the assumption when I'm doing my recon about X, Y, and Z. Again, we want to take a step back and not immediately go to testing because we need to understand what we're looking at first. We hack with our eyeballs, not with like a terminal window open, always brute forcing stuff, because it doesn't produce good results. Now, the next thing I will do is I will make notes of all these different UUIDs that I'm seeing here. Like I'll make notes of my user account. I'll make notes about like a pet ID that's valid. When I talk about like taking notes, and again, I mentioned this in the course, I'm kind of taking two different types of notes. The first type of note is stuff like, on this application I'm testing, what is a user ID that I know exists, or what are the API endpoints that I've tested for something. And then I'm also taking notes about when to look for specific vulnerabilities, like that kind of, when I'm reading a disclosed report and I'm trying to learn from it, I'm extracting out the when will I need this again information. So I end up with this like database of kind of, and I call it this in the course, signs of vulnerabilities. So whenever I'm doing this like initial analysis phase, my brain is already working here and going, okay, so given that this is a RESTful API, this is how I'm going to approach recon. Given that I'm seeing references to options requests, this is how it's going to change the way I approach this application. One thing I think is really misunderstood is the kind of like, I don't want to say spray and pray because it's not quite spray and pray, because you're not necessarily actually like sending tons of requests or like putting in massive word lists. Often it's more of a mindset shift towards like a mindset shift from I'm just going to try everything to, okay, I have a structure, I have focus. This is what I'm testing for. And if it doesn't work, I know when to give up. Like I know when it's not worth looking at this or trying this kind of vulnerability.
Well, where do we go from here? Is that list now kind of something, oh, we've got any things to latch onto, or are you still hunting and enumerating and getting a feel for things?
So we have a few options about what we can do now. One option is that we could try and try and enumerate some more API endpoints. A lot of people's first thought will be, I'm just going to use a brute forcing tool and an API specific word list. My advice is actually not to go straight for an API specific word list, because APIs are so specific to what a website does that often those word lists actually don't give you great results. They can give you good results, but in my experience, like the best one has always been, again, at least for me, has been, wow, my mind's gone blank. Kite Runner. But Kite Runner isn't necessarily in active development anymore, so it's kind of in a weird spot. So the next thing I'm going to really do is start to find the other API endpoints. Now, because I know this is a RESTful API, I know that we have a create, a read, an update, and a delete. So if I go to my repeater and I remove all this sorting functionality here, so this should be calling every pet in the database. And I can look through here and see, you know, what kind of information I'm able to see. Now, this is where, if you're testing UUIDs, this is where you can start to find the UUIDs, right? A lot of people think UUIDs, no point even looking for bolos. Not true. You can find UUIDs in other API requests. You just need to know what you're looking for. When I'm doing this and I'm looking at these read alls, I'm often looking for sensitive information. Now, a lot of this is not sensitive, right? Like things like the description is something that I can see on the website. So this Rocco here, like this is not sensitive about Rocco. If I scroll down and I can see that like the information about the rescue, Rocky Mountain Cavies, Denver, Colorado, again, it's information that I can see. So when I'm now looking at testing these, I'm now thinking, okay, what isn't being reflected in the UI that is in the API? And as I can see here, there's nothing really that interesting in here. Like there's just what I can see publicly. So that's not a vulnerability. So I can go in here and I'll then start to test the other API endpoints. So maybe I'll go to API v1 pets and I'll add an ID at the end. So we've done our read all. We're now doing the read one specific ID. And I can see I've got some results from that. I can then go in here and do okay, what about if we try and change the pets? So I'm going to copy this here. So this is the full object. And so I shouldn't really be able to do something like change Rocco's name here. I'm going to take a subset of it. I'm going to go into here and I'm just going to craft a new API request. Now, when you're doing this and you're kind of doing this manual approach to especially testing API endpoints that you can't see with your eyes, make sure you are having that content type application JSON with your create, and your update requests. Because otherwise you might get a 200. It might tell you, you know, oh, this has worked, and you get a negative result. Like you haven't been able to edit the pet, but it will still work and it will still look like you've edited the pet. And the other thing to keep in mind here is this ID. Keep this ID in there because you don't know if the API is controlling the ID here through the URL or here through the parameters. And then I'm just going to change something. I'm just going to make a little change. Now, when you're testing real applications, my recommendation is not to fill their database with complete garbage and to only test on resources that you have verified are yours. So if you're testing like a blogging website, don't attack some random people's blogs. Make 2 accounts and have a blog on one, like a blog author, and then have your attacker account separate. So you're only ever attacking your own stuff. But this is like a example of vulnerable application. We do what we want. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to press send. And we can see, oh, we've got a 200 OK. A lot of people will see a 200 OK and then forget. Just double check that what you've actually been able to do. So we can go in here and see, okay, we've managed to potentially change Rocco's name here. And so I'm going to refresh the page just to make sure that what we've seen on the API is reflected in the UI. And then we can see, okay, we've managed to edit Rocco's information here. So this is like a classic like access control issues. These are one of the most common vulnerabilities to find in APIs, and from like my testing that I've done, I'd say that like 40% of my vulnerabilities are this. 40% of my vulnerabilities are business logic issues rather than access control. And then the other 20% is just everything else. I have found a grand total of one cross-site scripting vulnerability in a real application. And again, often, as I say in the course, I would not recommend looking for XSS in modern applications. Same as SQL injection, because you won't find one and it will be a complete waste of your time. And that is it. That is your first API security vulnerability.
So that was which method was you kind of using on this one? Was that a put? Was that a patch? Or
that was a put, though you can absolutely use a patch as well. It depends on how the API is set up. As we'll see down here, you've got a lot of requests to options, and it actually tells you like what you can do. So you've got get, put, patch, post, delete in this API.
There was one question that flew by in the chat that was wondering, would this still work if the API has some sort of access control, like allow origin to a specific URL instead of, just a star or the asterisk or a wildcard? That would hopefully kind of limit this capability, right? Or...
Well, since we're going to the API directly, it kind of doesn't really matter, because that's more about how the UI is accessing the API, right? Like, that's not so much about what we do in security testing, because I could do the same if I do intercept, turn intercept on, refresh the page, and then I was to say edit the request down here. It doesn't matter how you edit it, really. It's not going to like solve it.
Gotcha. Super cool.
Now, of course, when we're doing any API security testing, we never stop at a first bug. As soon as an API has one bug, it's gonna have more. So you can also dive into this and find other vulnerabilities from it. But let's go through maybe one more finding that you can kind of start with here. So as you can see, when we go to the history, we can see this reference to our profile information, right? We've got this get API v1 users profile. We've also got the API v1 users me rescue promotion. Whenever we see functionality that we can't see on the page, like this promoting a user to a rescue, we should be thinking, how do I access that feature? Like, how is that set up? Like, how do I get that? How do I get access to that? And one thing that you will find, especially when testing real websites, is that you often have to interact with the website in more than just a security testing manner, where you're not supposed to socially engineer, like support people to download viruses, but you absolutely can socially engineer support people to upgrade your account from a regular user to a rescue by just telling it, I'm a genuine user, I would like access. The point there is not to do something that would like compromise the website just from the social engineering aspect. The point is to get access to more testing functionalities. You can do more tests and you can find more vulnerabilities. And so you might be in a situation where you have requesting a rescue account and you can say, my rescue is Baras R Us. My rescue location is the UK and I want to become a rescue because I have lots of capybaras in my house and I keep tripping over them. Now, we can imagine that this would then send a like some kind of support request that then maybe you get accepted or denied from it, etc. Now, this application actually does have a scheduled task that will give you more access if you fill out these forms in kind of like an acceptable way. And so we can wait here for this, but let's not get too much into waiting for it. Let's have a look at what that's done to the API. And as you can see here, we've got this idea of rescue requests, and we've got this like information about our request. So we can go in there and potentially, you can see we've got some references to things like fees and paid and admin notes and approval dates. And so in theory, we wait and we get our account upgraded. Now, in the meantime, we're still understanding more about how this works, right? Because this API uses me rescue promotion. We can start to go, okay, is that to do with the fact that there are fees? As in, is it promotion, put in a promotional code and get the fees removed? Or is it promotion as in account promotion? And that's why it's really important as you're kind of understanding an application to really make sure you know what you're looking at. So we can start to better understand this API users profile, right? So if we go now into update profile, we can see we make a request and we can see some information about our user account. Now, because we do API hacking, we could go in here and we could say, okay, what happens if we go to API v1 users? Is that going to read every single user in the database? We go into it. Nope, that's a 404 error. We then go, okay, so we have several types of users. We have regular users, we have rescues, and we probably have some kind of admin because we've seen a reference to admin notes. And we know from request to rescue that rescue as a user category must also exist. And this is why it's so important, because if you are just using word lists, you'll see things like users, customers, you might see a reference to like bills. And if you're not testing an application in that domain, if you are not doing something that thinks of it, they're like users as customers, that is a complete waste of time because you will never get a response back. So one thing I mentioned when I start to talk about recon is how to create custom API word lists for the target you're actually testing. And so instead of doing API v1 users, we're going to try API v1 rescue. We're going to press send. 404 error again. Okay, we've got rescue, but have we tested the plural version of that? No. Always test the plural version because you could be looking a vulnerability straight in the face and have no idea. And so we can go press send here and we can see, okay, now we're getting some information about rescues. We've got some IDs, we've got some names, seems pretty normal until we get down to users here. And we can see every user associated with this rescue. We can see their email and their username. Now, as someone who comes from bug bounty land, in a bug bounty context, sometimes this is not reportable, because a lot of customers don't actually see people's emails as being very sensitive private information because you kind of put your email in for anything these days. Now, whether or not that's true, GDPR actually disagrees heavily on that point, but this might be something that we may want to report, particularly if we're operating, say, in the EU, where any data that can personally identify somebody does count as personal private data. And now we've gotten even more information because now we know, one, some other user IDs. We now know the rescue email addresses. We know their usernames. We can see some information about, you know, the rescue and also the pets here. We've got an is adopted, is promoted in there as well. That we might be able to go into here and be like, okay, what else can I try and edit? Like, what else can I try and do here? And I will leave perhaps all of that to people actually testing this. But should you want to have a go, feel free to download it. Again, it's free. You can go and do it now. It's on GitHub. Please do feel free.
And there's maybe a little bit more of the showcase and demos in the API hacking course, I think, right?
There is, yeah. If you go into the API hacking course, there is like a final exam for exploring this API endpoint. This API. There is a full admin control panel. There is a full panel for rescues. You can increase your account by doing like a privilege escalation. There are so many different ways to exploit this API.
Super cool. I love that that's a whole playground. You know, hey, that's the whole spot to be able to learn and test. It's intentionally vulnerable for your learning. Just track down where you could find all the different bugs and API weaknesses.
Definitely.
Well, some sweet questions that rolled through. Ones that were wondering, could there sort of become admin access, or could you escalate admin privileges with what you found so far? Here and there, I think, right? Depends on kind of the vulnerability specifically you're looking at, but
There are many ways to increase your privileges. I haven't said it, but from the API endpoints that I have shown, there is in fact a way to get to an admin account from there.
heck yeah.
But spoilers.
Some were wondering on one of the anecdotes you threw in, wondering about cross-site scripting, XSS, and like SQL injection, SQLi. Obviously, that's a different world, right? Not strictly API hacking, but I know you said, hey, you know what? Maybe in modern apps in 2025, you just aren't going to see them as often. Is that to say, oh, we just stopped looking for them? Or is it kind of just seriously lower down on your priority list, right?
So nowadays, XSS, like functions that could cause XSS are called dangerously set inner HTML, which really stops developers from using it accidentally in their applications. So some of it is because typically nowadays, developers don't really write raw code. They always use a framework like React, or whether that's a front-end framework or a back-end framework or both. Thinking about stuff like Laravel that has both a back end and a front end kind of viewing thing as well. And nowadays, that takes a lot of pressure off of developers to do things the right way, because it abstracts away things like how you like print data to the screen, right? Now you're not writing the code echo variable name. Now you're just using curly brackets, or you're using some other functionality provided by the framework. That is essentially then removing the ability for developers to do something insecurely. This is what we mean when we talk about like secure guardrails. We don't let developers do the bad thing at the very start. But nowadays, yeah, when you've got a function name that's called dangerously set in HTML, you're not really motivated to use it, even if it does look really convenient.
Yeah, that's a good little stopgap. Just say that it is pretty dangerous. Excellent. Well, thank you again and again, Katie. This is super cool. Thank you so much for building out a full-blown, the full length, the real cradle to grave curriculum for API hacking. And thank you for showing off a little bit all the sweet stuff we could dig into. With just, oh, hey, a demo to see the Capybara Adoption Agency in action here. I can't say thanks enough, and I'm glad the Capybara gets a chance to say hello and make their appearance. So.
Well, from both of us, thank you so much for having us, John. Please do check out the API hacking course. I'm really proud of the entire thing, and I think if you are interested in API hacking, you want to give it a go, you're maybe supporting a team that's building APIs. I really think this is like a place you can go to get kind of everything you need.
Heck yeah. Well, for me to sign us off here, look, I did want to let some folks know maybe something kind of wild and crazy cool. Just Hacking Training, this whole endeavor is honestly celebrating like what is our 1 year anniversary this month. We've been doing this thing for like a year now, which is cool, which is wild. Like 70 different offerings and training and education. So hey, next week we are getting together with a little bit of a party for a live stream. Us and some of the OG or the original, maybe the starting crew and cohorts of our all-star instructors will be joining us. So I hope anyone can tune in for our anniversary live stream next week. But with that, I guess I'll tune us out and I'll see you at justhacking.com. I hope you all jump in and dive into the API hacking course. Thanks again and again. I'll play the sizzle reel and see us all out of here. Thank you all. Take care. Learn cybersecurity and focus technical training with justhacking.com, where all-star instructors and industry experts provide hands-on, affordable, and practical learning. Across courses, free upskill challenges, hack-along training videos, and capture the flag competitions, there's always something to hack. With new content twice a month, all throughout the year, plus bi-monthly live streams, you can sharpen your skills in our on-demand and interactive lab environments. Advance your career and level up, regardless of your experience or budget. Forget all the noise and get to Just Hacking. Sign up now at justhacking.com.